Welcome to the Dibley diaries for this week. This week we are filming in a little wooded bit, the sort of little wooded bit where dogs like to sniff around and pick up sticks and do other such dog-like activities. And so we're here to film today, and I wanted to talk in the Rural Challenge about dogs and doing ministry in a rural context. So what happens when you are a vicar, a minister in a rural place, is that you have to be good with dogs. Lots of people have dogs out in the countryside, and some of those dogs will be working dogs, some of those dogs will be companion dogs, but you need to be good with dogs. I had not realised that when I first went into a rural context. I didn't realise that I needed to be fine if when someone was opening the door to me to let me in on a pastoral visit, I needed to be fine if there were dogs. And there were a few moments where I was not particularly fine with dogs, and I was like, oh, but you just have to learn how to do it. You have to kind of learn the difference between a dog. You need to kind of know, oh, this is a farm dog or a working dog, that I don't expect this dog to be friendly to me, or maybe this is just a large but friendly dog, maybe even a different sort of working dog who's also friendly, and you need to have an idea, actually no, this dog is not okay, I am going to leave this dog alone, and even walk away. In that situation, one of the church buildings near where we work, and you have to go through somebody's back garden to get access to the church building, and they have two very large but fortunately very friendly dogs, so you just have to be okay with dogs. So if you're thinking about rural ministry or you're training for rural ministry, find a dog who can be friendly and teach you about dogs. If you don't know anything about dogs yet, you will need to know. Thought for the day this week is based on Matthew chapter 15 verses 21 to 28, where Jesus has his encounter with the Canaanite woman, and this is an interesting story. It's got all sorts of questions about what we understand about Jesus and what Jesus understands about himself. So Jesus and his disciples are in the region of Tyre and Sidon, and a woman keeps coming up to them, and she is shouting, Lord, Son of David, save me, help me. All those things, that type of thing is implied in that. And her daughter is suffering, and she wants Jesus to heal her daughter. Now, Jesus' disciples can't stand the fact that she is very persistent in her questions and her following Jesus, and they say to Jesus, would you like us to send her away because she keeps shouting? This woman keeps shouting, she won't be quiet. Would you like us to send her away? And at that point, Jesus doesn't do that. He turns and speaks to the woman, and Jesus says that he has come only to the lost sheep of Israel. And then he says to her, it's not fair to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. And she says to him, yes, but even the dogs eat the food from under the table, the crumbs that are scattered under the table. And Jesus says to her, your faith is incredible. Your faith is great. Go, your daughter is well. And the woman got back and found that her daughter was healed. This is a very interesting story, and part of the whole structure of trying to understand how much Jesus always understood about his mission. So you could say that Jesus always knew that his vocation would be to everybody. In fact, if you think about the Song of Simeon, it talks about Jesus coming to be a light to lighten the Gentiles and all those sorts of things. But Jesus was kind of still working out who he was and what he was coming to do, and perhaps part of his human nature was kind of fighting with his godly nature about this, because Jesus seemed to be saying to this woman that God can't love you. And there are some theologians who even say that when Jesus starts talking about dogs and kind of referring to the woman as a dog, he's being really quite rude and offensive to her. Now, I don't understand enough about New Testament study to know if that's true or not, but it's an interesting thought, isn't it? Actually, Jesus is saying that this woman and her daughter are excluded from God's love. But the woman challenges him. The woman understands better the immense size of God's love and God's care, which is being expressed through Jesus. And she says to him that even a crumb of God's love will be enough to do this amazing thing for her daughter, and her daughter is healed. It's a very human temptation to split people off into those who are loved by God and those who cannot be loved by God. And we need to learn and remember the same message that Jesus in this passage seemed to need to learn and remember, that God's love reaches everyone. The humans put in the division, but God's love is so large, so generous, that it reaches everyone. That's what the woman knew, and that Jesus needed to learn in the Bible story today. The Dibley moment of the week this week is not necessarily a rural moment, although it did happen to our family when we were living in a rural place, but it is definitely a Dibley moment. So it was somebody's birthday party after school, one of our children. We laid the party food on the table, shut the doors to the dining room and went and collected the children from school. There was no one at home at this point, apart from the house wolf. When we got everybody home from school, they all went into the sitting room and got on with whatever activity they were doing at the birthday party, and my other half came through and said to me quietly, "Was there meant to be a birthday cake on the table?" And yes, there was definitely a birthday cake on the table when we left the house, and went through to find there was left one tiny little bit of the birthday cake and one candle, and the bit of the birthday cake which had a plastic reusable happy birthday on it. I was not very pleased. Whilst we were out, House Wolf must have barged the door to the dining room and eaten the birthday cake. We had to take the comedic angle of it, of wow, this is the year the dog ate my birthday cake, and everybody was quite amused by that, mainly. So not necessarily a rural moment, but definitely a moment to do with dogs, and definitely a Dibley moment. So that's it for the Dibley Diaries for this week. I pray that you and your village, however large or small, have a really blessed week where you can share God's generous love out amongst you all.